What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Ravi Wadden, and in today's video, I want to talk about what I think is one of the best lease deals in the country in January of 2025, a $149 a month lease on a brand new Volkswagen ID.4 with just $999 due at signing. Now, that $999 does not include things like tax, titles, and license, but still, that is a phenomenal lease deal in terms of value. So if you're interested in a Volkswagen ID.4, I think you'll get a lot of value from this video, because what we'll do in the first part of this video is we'll head over to the Volkswagen website and we'll kind of study this lease deal in detail. We'll talk about how many miles this Volkswagen ID.4 allows, what tax, title, and license actually means, and what your real down payment or your real out-of-pocket would actually be in a state-by-state scenario. And then what we'll do in the second part of this video is we'll run my 1.25% rule of leasing on this Volkswagen, and I'll show you why this Volkswagen is such a good lease deal in terms of value, because a $149 monthly payment really doesn't tell you anything. It needs context, but when you take the MSRP of this vehicle into account and a $149 monthly payment, you'll see why this is a great lease deal in terms of value. And then in the third part of this video, what we'll do is we'll compare the monthly lease payment to the monthly finance payment, because I know a lot of people are strongly don't want to lease a vehicle, so I'll show you how much money you actually save by leasing this vehicle as opposed to financing this vehicle. So if that sounds good to you, please be sure to hit the like button. Please be sure to follow. And if you want to save up to $1,000 on a new Tesla, if you are shopping for a new Tesla, you can use my referral link that is down below or in the link in my bio. But with that, let's go ahead and jump into the video and jump into the computer that's sitting behind me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are on the Volkswagen website. Pardon my voice, I do have a bit of a cold. But anyways, all right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are on the Volkswagen website. Please pardon my voice, I do have a bit of a cold. But as you can see, you can lease a 2024 all-electric ID.4 standard rear-wheel drive for just $149 a month. It's a 24-month lease, and this is after the $7,500 EV lease bonus, otherwise known as the EV tax credit or the federal tax credit. Now, what we're going to do is actually click on View Offer Details to get more information on this lease and read the fine print, because that's what we do on this channel. We read the fine print so that you know and have full transparency. Now, what you're going to see is with the $999 that's due at signing, it excludes tax, title, license, options, and dealer fees. Now, this will really vary depending on where you live, right? Taxes, title, license, option is different, where you live, depending on where you live. So here in the state of Washington, in Seattle, where I live, you're looking at about, you have to pay taxes on rebates, right? So here you have $7,500 in rebates. You know it right off the bat. Here in the city of Seattle, you're going to pay about $750 or about 10% on that rebate. And then you have to pay for license, which on this car I would think is going to be about $600 to $700. And then you might have other dealer fees and options, and I think you'd probably end up in about the $1,600 to $1,700 range. But just for a conservative estimate, let's call it $2,000 for the sake of this video. So it's going to be about $2,000 on top of this $999, so about $3,000 total out of pocket. I think a lot of people see these due at signing amounts on lease ads, whether it's on TikTok or on TV, and they forget to include tax, title, license. So it's very, very important that you do that, because that can make up a bulk of that amount that's due at signing, as you can see in this scenario. Now, what you're going to see is that this lease is available through March 3rd, 2025, and it's on the rear-wheel drive model. So if you want the all-wheel drive model, I'm not sure what the lease terms are on that. Volkswagen hasn't really advertised them. You're also going to see that this is based on an MSRP of $39,735. Now, to my knowledge, this is kind of the base model of the ID.4, so inventory might come at play here. I'm not sure how many of these vehicles are available across the country, but anytime you want to get a good lease deal like this, it's not easy, folks, right? It kind of takes work. You got to call around. You have to shop out of state, out of your city. But anyways, what you're going to see is you have a capitalized cost of $27,436 after all of the capitalized cost reductions. And the capitalized cost reductions are the things like any dealer discounts, a $7,500 rebate, and additional rebates. Let's go on. You're going to see that your monthly payments total $3,576. And if you go over the 20,000 miles that are allowed in this lease, you're going to have to pay 20 cents a mile. Now, if you don't want to pay 20 cents a mile, my recommendation is that you prepay your lease mileage. So if you know you drive 12,000 miles or 15,000 miles a year, get that up front, and you won't pay 20 cents a mile. Maybe you'll pay like 10 cents a mile or 12 cents a mile. It's just cheaper to get the mileage up front if you know you're going to drive more than 10,000 miles a year. Now, another thing that is usually listed on the fine print is the residual value of the car, or what you can buy the car for at the end of the lease term. That's not listed here, but you can buy this car at the end of the lease. I only think it makes sense to buy cars at the end of the lease if you have positive equity. So in this scenario, let's say the residual value was, let's say $22,000. If the trade-in value of the car is more than $22,000 at the end of the lease term, then you can consider either buying the car or using that equity and rolling it into your next lease, or taking it to a Volkswagen dealer and getting a cashier's check for that positive equity. But please do note that if you do decide to purchase the vehicle at the end of the lease, you do have to pay a $395 fee as stated here. Now what I'm going to do in this part of the video is run my 1.25% rule of leasing on this Volkswagen to show you why it's a good deal in terms of value. Now, this is a very quick calculation, and anytime you get a number under 1.5%, it's a good lease deal. Like, you should lease that particular vehicle, whether it's this car or not, over financing a vehicle. If you get a number under 1.25%, that's a great lease deal. And if you get a number under 1%, that's an amazing lease deal. So let's go ahead and run the 1.25% rule of leasing on this Volkswagen ID.4. So what we're going to do is we'll take the due at signing amount of $999 and we'll add $2,000 to that amount to account for things like tax, title, and registration, as we discussed earlier in this video. And that gives us a total due at signing amount of $2,999. Now what we're going to do is divide this by 24 and take, since it's a 24-month lease, and what that's going to do is divide this due at signing amount into 24 equal parts. And that gives us $124.95. Now what I'm going to do is add the monthly payment of $149 to this amount, and that gives me a pre-tax zero down monthly payment of $273. Now remember, we rolled that entire due at signing amount into the monthly payment, and that's why I'm calling it a zero down lease. This isn't factoring in sales tax on the payment, so we'll multiply this by 1.1 to account for 10% sales tax, and you get an effective monthly payment when you roll all taxes and fees and sales tax into the payment of $301 a month. So essentially, if you multiply this by 24, that would be the total cost of the lease over 24 months. Now, when it comes to due at signing amounts, a lot of people say, hey, if you don't have a zero down lease, don't lease a vehicle, that's a bad deal. I tend to disagree with that. Now, if I was leasing this car and the dealer asked me to put $3,000 down to get a $149 monthly payment, I would gladly do it, knowing that I'm getting a tremendous deal. Now, there is a risk of putting money down. Like, let's say if you get in an accident, 2 weeks after I lease this car, it gets really difficult to retain or get some of that money back that you put down. But, if you're only putting $2,000 or $3,000 down, I think that's fair, especially for a car that has like a $40,000 MSRP. If anything, I would be happy to roll this $999. That's like a cash due at signing. That's just lowering the monthly payment. If they could roll that into the monthly payment, that's great. And then I can just pay the $2,000 out of pocket to account for things like tax, title, and license. But, just because you have to put $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, and in some cases $4,000 down to get a really attractive monthly payment, I think it's a good deal as long as the effective monthly payment makes sense, or in other words, the total cost of the lease makes sense. And so what we're going to do here with this effective monthly payment of $301 a month is we'll divide this by the vehicle's MSRP, which is $39,735. And when I do that, I get 0.0076. If I multiply this by 100, I get 0.75 or 0.76%. So as I mentioned, Anytime you run this calculation and you get a number under 1%, that's an amazing lease deal in terms of value, ladies and gentlemen. So this is 0.75%. So it's not only under 1%, it's way under 1% at just 0.75%. Now, really quickly, I want to show you what the monthly payment would look like if you finance this Volkswagen ID.4. So we use a selling price of $39,735, which is the MSRP. We use a loan term of 72 months. We use an interest rate of 0%. I'm not sure if this is a 0% car or not, but I used 0% just to give you guys, or give the financing the benefit of the doubt. I didn't apply a down payment because we didn't do so in the lease. I used Washington and a 10% sales tax rate. And then I used title registration and other fees of $2,000, same as we did in the lease. And when I hit calculate, you get a monthly payment of $634.84 a month, and the effective lease payment on this car is $301 a month. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're saving over $3,600, a year by leasing this car, over $7,200 over 2 years by leasing this car. And even if you did 12,000 miles a year or 15,000 miles a year, you're still saving about $300 a month by leasing this car instead of financing this car. And part of that reason is because when you buy it, you don't get the $7,500 EV tax credit. But, some of you may be thinking, hey, Ravi, nobody's going to pay MSRP for this car. And I generally agree with you. But even if we used a selling price of, let's say, $32,735, your monthly payment is still $527 compared to $301. Even if you used a selling price of $25,000, let's say you just negotiated a knockout deal, your monthly payment is still more than the lease. And, getting a selling price of $25,000 is just not going to happen. It's not feasible. So I hope this helps explain why leasing makes sense when you look at it from a total cost of ownership perspective. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call it a video. If you have any questions about car leasing, or if you have any questions about this Volkswagen ID.4 lease, let me know in the comment section below. Also, let me know if you would lease this Volkswagen ID.4 at the stated price of $999 down and $149 a month. And if you haven't already, please be sure to check out DriveMatch.com. It's a company that I co-founded where you can get pre-negotiated lease deals. And last month, and actually the past few months, we had some pretty awesome Volkswagen ID.4 lease deals. And we are posting our new lease deals for this month. So be sure to check out DriveMatch.com as well. With that, I'm going to call it a video. Thank you all for watching. Happy New Year to everybody watching as well. Financial knowledge is power. Please like and follow for more.